Former Governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, demands fair hearing and sues Kaduna State House of Assembly for indicting him over alleged 432 billion naira misappropriation without listening to his side of the story. Benue records over 130,000 attacks across 50 communities with over 2,500 fatalities, according to a report by Amnesty International, who are asking the government to halt assaults. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. The responsibility, as always, is to track what's going on in the polity as well as happens in Nigeria and around. We bring it to the fore, condensing all of it right here on the show to make sense of all of the situation we found ourselves in the polity, whether it's the economy or politics, or the expanded conversation beyond the two I've just mentioned, including security. Right here is where we'll explore all of the story. But let's begin by telling you that the bicameral chambers of the National Assembly, comprising the Senate and the House of Representatives, will convene or reconvene tomorrow, Thursday, June the 27th, from its Salah and end of first session break. Both chambers had earlier adjourned plenary till Tuesday, July the 2nd, but the chairman of the Senate Committees on Media and Public Affairs, as well as the clerk of the House of Representatives, have confirmed that the National Assembly will cut its break. The reason, excuse me, is quite simple. In a statement, they said the resumption of plenary has become necessary to enable the lawmakers attend to urgent national and constitutional issues and to carry out further oversight on the implementation of the Appropriation Act 2024. So by tomorrow, we'll see lawmakers reconvene at the National Assembly, and let's see how plenary plays out tomorrow, and we get to hear what they have to say. We can also tell you that Dangote refinery had a fire incident earlier today, a situation the company describes as a minor fire incident at its effluent treatment plant in Lagos. In a very brief statement by its group head corporate communications, Mr. Anthony Chejena, it assures that there is no cause for alarm as the refinery is operating. The statement further adds that there is no recorded injury or physical harm to any of his staff on duty. But those are not the only stories we're tracking, and away from all of that, former Governor of Kaduna State, Malam El-Rufai, has dragged the Kaduna State House of Assembly to the Federal High Court, Kaduna, over denial of fair hearing during its investigations of all financial dealings of his 8-year administration. His lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Abdul Hakim Mustafa, is asking the court to declare the report of the Assembly probe as null and void, having not been given the opportunity of hearing over the allegations leveled against him and his administration by the committee. Joined in the suit are respondents as the Kaduna State House of Assembly and the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. The Kaduna State House of Assembly, in its probe, reports in the financial dealings of El-Rufai administration, indicted the former governor and some senior members of his cabinet for alleged misappropriation of over 400 billion naira meant as loans and for contracts.
I'm here with Malam El-Rufai to file an application to enforce his fundamental rights. As we are all aware, the Kaduna State House of Assembly set up an ad hoc committee to investigate loan and other activities of the former administration. A lot of witnesses were called, and they did hearing and they admitted a lot of documents. But strangely, Malam El-Rufai, who apparently was the target of the investigative committee, was never invited. The law is very clear. Everybody deserves to be given a hearing. The right to fair hearing is a natural right that inures into every human being. Malam El-Rufai was a lot of allegations were made against him. He was not given a hearing at all. As a law-abiding citizen who believes in the rule of law and who believes that when there are infractions, you need to approach the court, is here today before the Federal High Court to enforce his right that every infraction they alleged he was not given an opportunity to state his own side of the story. And the law is clear about it. Any proceeding, be it court or quasi-tribunal, that he didn't give the parties concerned a hearing, the whole proceeding is void ab initio. And that's why we're here.
Well, we'll get to hear the outcome of that suit by the former governor. In the meantime, about 50 rural communities in Benue State have recorded 135 attacks, leading to over 2,600 persons being killed, mainly women and children, between January 2023 and February 2024. That report is coming from Amnesty International, which explains that 18 out of the 23 local government areas have been affected by insecurity, leading to all sorts of displacement of people, kidnapping, and even rape. In its list of incidents, Amnesty International highlights that 55 schools have been destroyed by armed attackers. At least 23 local markets have been attacked and destroyed, and over 80% of farming population in Agatu, Guma, and Gwa West have been displaced with no access to their farmland or any means of livelihood. The international rights group is asking the federal government to hold these attacks and investigate to ensure justice for the victims, as over 400,000 IDPs were captured in the camp just recorded in March 2023 to date. All right, so that's the security situation right there in Benue State. But we have a big conversation for you. But first, we'll bring you our political roundup stories.
River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara says the intention of the man who attempted to detonate an explosive in Port Harcourt on Tuesday was to blow up the Presidential Hotel, a highly rated hospitality facility in the state. Governor Fubara said this while playing host to the members of the Senate Committee on Privatization, led by Senator Orji Uzor-Kalu, at the Government House in Port Harcourt. He explains that the failed attacker targeted the facility that was accommodating high-profile individuals, including the members of the debate committee, to justify the call for imposition of a state of emergency in the state. He asked the committee members, some of whom are former governors, to help in speaking truth to power, especially on the river's political crisis.
I know everything that is happening. Yesterday, while they are aware that you were here, there was an attempt to create heavy problem. In fact, there was a plan to dynamite the Presidential Hotel because you people were there. But this God that we serve, it happened that the man who was trying to do it, it happened just a few seconds as blew his hand off.
A group of opposition lawmakers in the House of Representatives have raised an alarm over alleged moves by some former local government chairmen in Rivers State to freeze the council's allocations through an ex-party order. The spokesperson of the group, Mr. Ikenga Ugochinyere, is urging the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court and Justices of the State High Court not to allow such applications, since those behind it are no longer in office.
I want to use this opportunity to call on the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court and the CJs of State High Court to be very careful and worry and be very careful and put their divisions at alert, so that none of the divisions can be used to issue an ex parte applications by people who are no longer elected local government, people that their tenure have expired.
The federal government has disclosed plans to relocate the Medium Security Custodial Center in Kefi, Nasarawa State, which was built in 1820 and has been caught up by urbanization. The Minister of Interior, Mr. Olubomitun Jojo, made the disclosure when he was in Kefi to inspect the facility, which has undergone rehabilitation, including the construction of new perimeter fencing. While inspecting the new Medium Security Custodial Center, located within Kefi town, he expressed concerns over the high population of inmates in the facility.
We have to think about relocation. We have to look at because of the effect of urbanization. So perhaps we will be putting everything in motion to upgrade the facility and to build more facilities in the Kefi new, to be able so that we can now relocate from here and, of course, convert these to other things.
A former president of the Nigeria Bar Association and governorship candidate of the Labour Party for the September 21st Edo governorship election, Mr. Olumide Akpata, is again calling on the governor of Edo State, Mr. Gordon Obaseki, to swear in the 3 remaining judges recommended by the National Judicial Council for the state judiciary. Mr. Akpata made the call in a forum for legal professionals in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
I call on his Attorney General, to also speak again to the governor, because I have seen him have done so before. to get him to swear these 3 judges. People's lives are really at issue here. People's professional career are at issue here.
And the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, has appealed the June the 19th ruling of Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court Abuja against his objection to the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court to subject him to trial. Mr. Kanu, through his lead counsel, Mr. Aloy Ejimako, filed the notice of appeal at the Court of Appeal in Abuja. Mr. Ejimako states that the problem is with the counts of charge retained against Mr. Kanu, describing the ruling of the trial judge as a miscarriage of justice. The federal government is the only respondent, and the appeal will be served through her counsel, Mr. Adigboyega Awumalo.
Welcome back. Our first conversation will be with the Labour Party. Since the entrance of Mr. Peter Obi, the former governor of Anambra State, which gave them a good run in the last election, coming third in that exercise with 6.1 million votes, as against the president over 8 million, and the second place, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP with 6.9. There has been one form of leadership crisis or the other, centered around Julius Abure. As a matter of fact, at some point, he had to step aside and then came back into power. There was a time when it was Lamidi Apapa against him. Now, it looks like a few people have closed ranks. So the division sometimes borders around the Labour Party itself, the Obedient Movement, and then the NLC. And the NLC has even had a transition committee. They're planning to convene, to organize a convention, not recognizing what happened in Newi. And so the party has been doing all it can to see how they can close ranks. The other day, the NWC was meeting at the headquarters in Abuja with their presidential candidate present. And some people staged a protest at that particular gate, insisting that Julius Abure must go. What exactly is going on with the Labour Party? That's the conversation we'll have today. First part of the program. We're joined on the program by the National Vice President of the Labour Party, Mr. Ayo El-Rufai, joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. El-Rufai, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So maybe, whether it's a vague question or it's a generic question, what exactly is going on with the Labour Party?
Yeah, you just said it. The Labour Party had a very good showing when the last time when Governor Dr. Olusegun Mimiko was governor of Ondo State. And you recall that he contested and won election under the Labour Party twice. And some powers that be within the system were not comfortable with the like of Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, who, of course, is a socialist in nature. And so they created a problem. Now, who are the people creating this problem? You recall that from inception, apart from the time of Frederick Fashion, the next person that led the party was Dan Wanyanwu. And you recall that there was similar problem with Dan Wanyanwu created by NSC. Now, Wanyanwu, out of anger, threw away the certificate of registration of Labour Party. And eventually, Salam took over. And we also know that Abu Salam also had problem with NSC. And until he died, the problem was raging. And now Abure. All these people that I've mentioned were general secretaries of NSC-affiliated unions. Abure also belonged to the NSC. NSC have been providing leadership for the party through their members from inception, except for the except in the case of Dr. Frederick Fashion. TUC has never produced any chairman for the Labour Party, and so we are supposed to be the one agitating for leadership position. But no, the TUC is more interested in better Nigeria, the new Nigeria, that is necessary at this stage, especially as the situation we find ourselves in the country today. So if you put everything on the doorstep of NSC, who also have been claiming to be the sole owner of Labour Party. And of course, talking about the operation of the party, Article 7 of the Constitution of the party talk about the supremacy of the Constitution of the party. So if you are doing anything outside the Constitution of the party, you are on your own. And of course, as you must have heard, efforts are being made to reconcile all the warring factions, or no, not faction now, all the aggrieved persons within the Labour Party. And of course, the Apapa coming back is also a reflection of what I'm saying. And of course, it therefore means that all the allegations levied against Julius Abure when the crisis under Apapa group was raging, now to be found to be not to be true. And so if you punish somebody for not committing any offense, what do you think God will do to you? So the same allegation are now being banded here and there by NSC. And where we felt in the Labour Party, we are committed to a new Nigeria. We are committed to a very strong political party. We are committed to building an institution and playing a role that is significant in the politics of Nigeria, in ensuring that our recruitment system is so scientific and follow due process. And of course, the offense we have committed, or the offense Abure has committed, is basically because of the 2023 election that shocked everybody. The leadership style that he adopted in putting the party together shocked everybody. And a lot of people who believe that, well, it's a shop and shop thing, they want to take over power. Maybe some people are also planning to retire from the system, from where they are now, to come to the political party. There's nothing wrong in that. You can come to the political party, but you must follow the due process.
If I may butt in at this point, we had a conversation with Mr. Arabambi. I remember clearly I've had a conversation with him on this show, and he was very vehement against Mr. Abure. And now, clearly, from his words to our listening ears, he said they've closed ranks, himself, Papa, and Abure, on one hand, and then it was very clear that they're against Peter Obi. Why do you think that is? And the obedience, because I know he mentioned whether it's the entire obedience or some section of the obedience, because of this rift that is going on. We're going to come to the issue of Abure. I just need you to respond to that.
If Arabambi came on air to say that Abure was a thief, and now he's no longer a thief, and he came to this same air to say that he was against Peter Obi, then you know that you will come to agree with me that is the Nigerian politics. And the Labour Party is not willing to bend down to the Nigerian politics. We are very scientific. We can't be playing the kind of politics we are playing in Nigeria and be developed. It won't work that way. Some of us that are God-fearing, we not just listen to rumor and fly with rumor. What happens if the rumor is not true and you have taken some drastic decision? Maybe you have even killed the person, and only for you to discover that everything that was said concerning that particular person were all lies. So they have done what they wanted to do. They have seen that we are also not relenting, and they have also discovered that we are serious people. And so if they want to come back, they are welcome. But, don't take anything they said during the crisis, don't take it to bank. They are not true.
All right.
And what the NSC is also saying now.
Mr. El-Rufai, I don't want to go into issues. Just a minute. So, straight questions about the position of Mr. Arabambi, because sometimes politicians, you almost make the work difficult for us. When issues are subject of litigation or adjudication, I'm glad it's not. When you introduce this person as this one say I'm that. I've had that situation right here on the show. So what position does Mr. Arabambi and Mr. Papa occupy in the leadership of the party right now? Because they were very strong opponents at the peak of the crisis. Let's begin from there.
Yeah, they are members. They are members of the party. And the process of reconciliation is ongoing. We may likely have a kind of a special convention to fill some vacancies that were not occupied in the last, during the last convention. You know, when you apply, when you contest, in contesting for some position, you will see some positions that are not even contested for. So those positions are still there, and those positions cannot be filled by just picking people. It will come through a special national convention. So for now, they are members of the party. Let's see what will happen in the reconciliation bid that is going on. And after that reconciliation bid, we will be able to sit down and fix a date for a special convention to look at the various vacancies that still exist within the party.
We may have to come back to the issue of the Abdulwahid Omar-led transition committee, as it calls it, that Mr. Abure's tenure has ended, and a national convention has to be held, which is the reason why they literally wanted to storm into that NWC. They do not recognize the NWC as far as maybe in their views. But members of the Obedience, who are the strong components of the Labour Party, are even pushing that the presidential candidates in the last election should actually leave the party because it looks like the party is not getting its acts together. What's the response of the party to this?
Well, I will just use the word delusional. Those ones that are pressing for such, they are delusional. Some people can overrate themselves. The true obedient out there, they won't, and I repeat, they won't advise Peter Obi to leave the party. You have the true obedient, the student union groups, the youth of Nigeria, the hardworking people of Nigeria, the people who are tired of what is going on in Nigeria, people who are tired of hunger. Which political party will they go to? To go back to PDP or to APC or to where? This is a political party that is based on ideology. We are social democrat here. The people that put this political party together are social democrat, and that is entrenched in the Constitution. So the only place for Peter Obi to be able to win election in 2027 is Labour Party, and we are already preparing for that. We are not saying that others will not come in. There is room for others to come in. We are going to get the best out of the system in order to come together, give the best human resource in terms of recruitment that will push the next election so that we can take Nigeria to where it should be. We should start the journey of taking Nigeria to where it should be, because Nigeria has been delayed.
All right. When you were talking about there's no other party to go to, I was smiling because it doesn't hold true in Nigeria. Nigerian politicians are always moving. There are very few we can count that have never moved. So Peter Obi was in ABGA, went to PDP, now he's in Labour. Politicians, they move wherever their interest is served. But let's leave that. Let's come to what...
For that, if you have not seen what you are looking for, you keep moving. But now you are seeing what he's looking for. There's no basis for him to leave. He has seen what he's looking for.
You're on record.
What he has seen in Labour Party, he couldn't find in those political parties. That is why he continued the journey until he got to Labour Party, and he has come to stay. And more people will come and join him in Labour Party.
It's your position, but let's move on now. Former DG of his campaign, Donyo Kukwe, spoke to my colleague when some weeks ago, and it was very clear that with the benefit of hindsight, when he positions the president, Bola Tinubu, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and Peter Obi, he clearly sees that the president was better than all of them. And someone had actually said he's not fit to run in 2027, but he has responded to all of that. We've seen Kenneth Okonkwo, who was very vehement supporter of Peter Obi, begin to make statements that people are wondering what really went wrong. So how does the party perceive this, and how will it affect the image of the party, the way it positions itself as the, is it third force or the alternative that Nigerians are looking at?
Yeah, for Donyo Kukwe, he was never a social democrat, and he made it very clear when he was leaving. He pretended and joined us, deceived us, and when he has finished the damages he wanted to create, he left. So I will not sit down here and continue to talk about Donyo Kukwe. Everybody knows very well that Peter Obi is still the best president that we are yet to have. And by the grace of God, by year 2027, we are going to have him, okay? All things being equal, with God on our side, because without God, there's nothing anybody can do. Forget about Nigerian politicians. I don't want to be identified as such. You know, we lie too much. We believe that politics is about confusing people, whereas the true definition is not confusing. It's not about confusing. It's about your ability to convince. And in convincing people, you must state the facts. Okay? But in Nigeria, it has been turned to confusion. And the more they are able to confuse, like they have confused Nigeria now, and Nigeria is in this confused state, and now the people that have been confused are now living in hunger and abject poverty. We need to change the narrative. We need to remove this trajectory. And we need to move to a place where we have confidence in Nigerian politicians and say, look, when they say yes, it means yes. And when they say no, they mean no. And let me go back to the National Transition Committee set up by NSC. There's no place, that thing doesn't have any place in law. It doesn't have any place in our constitution. NSC doesn't have a role to play to the extent of establishing a transition committee. So it's null and void ab initio. And of course, you recall the era of a new PDP. Yeah, nobody will stop them from bearing whatever name they want to call themselves. But they will have to go and get an office for themselves and run the office and run an election under the transition committee of the NSC, as they may want to call it. So we are guided by our constitution.
If I may butt in, my apologies. Yeah. My apologies if I may butt in. Well, you are still a Nigerian politician. What we usually tell politicians, in the Nigerian law, you are allowed, under the law, you are innocent until you're found guilty by a competent court of competent court. But when it comes to politicians, the way Nigerians perceive politicians, you're guilty. You now have to be an exception not to be found guilty. So it's not a conversation or an argument. So if you want to distinguish yourself, we wish you the very best. But let's move on now to...
Not only me. There are a lot of politicians in Nigeria who want to stand out. Let me ask you a question.
It's not
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
I am the one asking the question.
Let me just ask you a question.
Mr. Lorafemi, permit me.
If you have the best of house in Nigeria, 21 billion naira house, how many years are you going to spend in that house before you die? And look at my age. I'm 60 years old. In the next 20 years, where do you think I will be? So what's the fuse about all of this? The best anybody can do is to leave legacy for the generation coming.
All right. Let's be. It's nothing personal. I just gave you a perspective of how Nigeria perceives politicians. So everybody can make out of it whatever they want to make out of it to stand out. Okay. Elections are coming. Let's begin with Ondo. We seem not to be having a strong showing of Ondo like we're seeing in Edo State with Olumide Akpata in Ondo State. What exactly is going on with Labour Party in Ondo State?
Well, as God will have it, I am the candidate of the Labour Party in Ondo State. And we are working underground, strategizing in ensuring that Labour Party produce the next governor in Ondo State by the grace of God. We are going to do it. We have laid down our programs. And of course, you know that during the Labour Party government in Ondo State, tuition fees in our universities was around 14,000, 20,000, 15,000. Right now, it's about 150,000, 160,000. So first thing we are going to do is to reduce the tuition fee so that an average Nigerian will be able to send his or her daughter or children, his or her children to any university of his or her choice in Ondo State. So we are going to reduce the tuition fee in our tertiary institutions by half. So we are working on that.
No, Mr. Lorafemi, if you want, Mr. Lorafemi, permit me. The day I want you to come and campaign, we will tell you, because if you do that now, I hope you have your check.
We are solidly on ground in Ondo State.
Hold on, I hope you have your check to give. No, hold on. You need to give me a check so that you can do your campaign properly, so we can give it to marketing. It's not time. So a lot of people don't know you. They know other candidates. That's why we're asking that question. A lot of people are surprised that you are the candidate. That's the showing we're talking about. no strong showing as much as possible. But
now,
let's move to... Just hold on, Mr. El-Rufai. I'm totally out of time. Yeah. Edo State, where we're seeing a strong showing, at least we know that there's Asue Godalo, we know that there's Monday Okpebolo of the APC, we also know that there is Olumide Akpata. That party seems to still be divided, which is one of the strongholds of the Labour Party. Some people are declaring obedient for Asue, some people are declaring for this. How does the party want to win an election when itself is that split along maybe 3 parts?
Well, you are seeing splitting. We are seeing some challenges which we are dealing with. And by the grace of God, within the next couple of weeks, all those differences will be resolved and will come out stronger in Edo State. I can tell you that. You will see what will happen in Edo within the next couple of weeks. We are bound to have disagreement here and there, especially for a party, an emerging party like Labour Party, with a mixed multitude. So you expect some of these things to come to play. But I can assure you, within the next couple of weeks, you'll see what will happen. We are coming out stronger in Edo, and we are taking over Edo by the grace of God.
All right, just a last question. Is the NWC of the Labour Party united for Olumide Akpata in the election that is coming up in September?
We have no choice. We went there to conduct a primary and declare Olumide Akpata as the governorship candidate of Labour Party. So we cannot declare somebody a winner of a primary and work against him. It's not possible. So those are the figment, what I call figment of the imagination of
the reason why I asked that question, is because when his hands were raised by the presidential candidate, Mr. Julius Abure, was not there. And I hope that one of these days, Julius Abure will show up also ask questions, because a lot from the beginning of this crisis till now centers around him. Everybody who is coming to, quote and unquote, in your view as the NWC, divide the party, is coming for Abure's head. So Abure needs to answer questions as to why this is, and maybe give us some explanation.
I wasn't there too. Abure wasn't there, but Abure was there in spirit. While we were on our way to Edo State, some guys in NSC were on their way to INEC with a view to confuse the INEC people to issue a letter saying our tenure has expired. And you know that our tenure, we've just started the new tenure. And some people are saying our tenure has expired. And they will deceive them and get a letter to further confuse people. Before you solve that problem, it will have gone very far. So they believe that we are out of Abuja already. And they quickly wanted to do that. And we discovered we got our intel.
We're totally out of time.
We got our intel and moving to,
We're totally out of time, Mr. Ayo El-Rufai. Thank you so much for coming to the program. The National Vice President of the Labour, National Vice Chairman, I should say. My apologies.
The National Deputy Chairman.
National Deputy Chairman, my apologies, of the Labour Party, Mr. Ayo El-Rufai. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, when we come back after this break, we'll switch gears to issues of insecurity in the Northwest. 2 days, the governors of the region and even the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, was present at a summit organized in collaboration with the UNDP to foster what could be the best future for that region. There are about 7 states, and the northern region has been plagued by so many things that Nigeria complains about, yet it holds so much potential underneath all of that. What can be done to change that trajectory and reposition that narrative? I'll be joined by an expert who talks about it right here on the program. Join us again. Welcome back. We'll now switch gears to security situation in the Northwest. A few days ago, the governors in that region, in collaboration with the UNDP, had come together to hold a peace and security summit to find a way to restore peace as much as possible so that the people can have lives and livelihood back on track. We've been joined in the program to further discuss on some of the conversations that ensued that particular day by a security consultant and the CEO of Beacon Consulting and Intelligence Limited, Mr. Kabiru Adamu. Mr. Adamu, thank you for coming on the program as always. We appreciate you.
My pleasure, Jeffrey. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Just before we head to the Northwest, let's just have your take on the publication by Amnesty International as to the record of casualties, attacks in over 50 communities. They say 135 attacks in over 50 communities that has led to over 2,600 fatalities, and as a result, over 400,000 people now in IDP from January last year, I think, to February this year. What's your immediate reaction to what this says about the state of security?
Yeah, as you know, my organization does publish these types of reports where we show fatalities and then kidnap for ransom. And so the report is not surprising to me. I only worry a little bit about the consequences of isolating one location in Nigeria and then putting it out there and invariably emphasizing the notion that there is either an ethnic or sometimes even a religious component to the conflict. Every international organization has certain principles, and I know one of them is the principle of do no harm. So I really wonder sometimes if Amnesty International does take that into consideration. The conflict that we're seeing in Nigeria affects different states, different locations, and so when you isolate just one and put it forward without necessarily highlighting the fact that other locations are also being affected by that type of conflict and fatalities, you are invariably, unfortunately, either enforcing or reinforcing a notion that anyone who doesn't want to do harm would do. And that's the major, I would say, grouse I have with that report by Amnesty International.
Okay, let's now move to what's been playing out in the summit, and some questions I have at the back of my mind to ask you when I listen to what was said. So if you look at things like insecurity, out-of-school children, multi-dimensional poverty, a lot is more domiciled, or the epicenter is mostly in the north and all of that. And the northern governors, northwest governors have now said they want to do something. So my question is, this has always been there for a while. Is this an institutional crisis or just lack of brutal honesty to be able to attack this situation and bring it to the fore and solve it?
Okay, so just to give a bit of context of what we're dealing with in the Northwest, 7 states with the probably the most populous region in the country, and based on the last report that Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited put out, where we saw 1,090 persons being killed in the month of May. Now, of that 1,090, 21% were from that region, from the Northwest region. And then for abduction, we recorded 1,118. Now, 54% of that 1,118 affected the Northwest region. When we looked at the 774 local governments in Nigeria, 6 of the worst affected local governments in terms of insecurity were from the Northwest region. When we looked at the states that were worst affected by insecurity in the country, for the first 10 that we counted, in the first 6, the 5 out of the first 6 were from the Northwest region. Only Borno State was included in that first 6 outside of the other 5 that were from the region. So clearly, the need for addressing the security challenge in the Northwest region is more than ever important right now. If we're going to improve security in Nigeria, especially the other components of security, if you notice, the conference is speaking about the nexus between insecurity, peace, and then development. So if we're going to address the insecurity challenge in Nigeria, perhaps there is no other region that is more important than the Northwest, given the statistics that I've mentioned. We can speak about the out-of-school children. We can also speak about the drug addiction. We can speak about the porous borders that exist in that region, the weapons proliferation. So the conference is actually timely. And I'm also quite delighted by the stakeholders that came together. You've mentioned that the UNDP, but beyond the UNDP, the German government was there, the Netherlands, they were there, And then, of course, the federal government was more or less the opening remark was given by the vice president. The president was supposed to be there, where he was represented by the vice president. And then, of course, our traditional rulers were there, religious leaders were also there. And not just that, across the political spectrum, if you look at the 7 states, there are 3 political parties that are governing those states in those regions. And they came together without that political divide and spoke as one. So I'm quite delighted at the commitment that I've seen during the conference. Of course, when we go further, we can speak about the technical sessions that were held and then the nature of the issues that came up that I also feel were discussed in a frank manner and that would allow, hopefully, progress, as the decisions of the conference are reeled out.
All right, Mr. Kabir, I would like you to go straight to that frank conversation, because I listened to the Sultan, a monarch who to me looked like he was tired of the talk shop. He was tired of all of this summit. He just wants the problem solved. So what exactly was said in those sessions where cameras were not on, if they are to be shared publicly, that we need to know so that we can begin to see results? And how soon shall we see this result? Because all of this insecurity and all the negative data is covering things like the agricultural potential, the mineral potential, the alternative energy potential. We can go on and on.
So there were, I think, 6 sessions that were held. And the first session covered the farmer-herder violence. It looked at the 2 constituencies. What is the historical perspective of the farmer-herder violence? What are the manifestations of the current issues around farmer-herder violence? What has it triggered? And then how have the various states been handling them? Were there good lessons to learn from either of the states? If you notice, of the 7 states, Jigawa and to an extent Kano have relatively lower security challenges than the other 5 states. So how have they managed that issue in particular, the farmer-herder violence? The second one was what was called balancing the acts, exploring kinetic and non-kinetic strategies. Of recent, the government has divided its security approach into the kinetic and non-kinetic. So which ones have worked, which ones haven't worked? Is there a way to have a hybrid? Or if we're not having a hybrid, which one should be more important than the other? What are the root causes of the insecurity? How can addressing the root causes, as an example, support the development of both security and peace, and then, of course, development that would follow? The third one is socioeconomic development. In other words, advancing livelihoods and food security. So it looked closely at the livelihoods that have been destroyed. People's professions, as it were, farmers, name them, are all being affected. Youths are migrating from the north to other parts of the country in search of livelihoods. How will that be brought back? That looked at it, that issue closely. The fourth one is ending kidnap for ransom. Like I told you, 54% of the kidnap for ransom incidents in the country affected that region. So it looked closely at that issue. What is the ecosystem involved in the kidnap for ransom industry? What can be done? Are there any good practices that can be embedded or that each of the governments in the region can embrace and implement to help them reduce the kidnap for ransom situation in the region? Then the fifth one is sustainable financing, which looked at navigating paths and to economic resilience and environmental sustainability in the Northwest. So it looked at the impact of climate change as well as other aspects of sustainable finance and land titling as an example. How can that support financing and several other components of that? And then the last one that was looked at is it was a closed door session between the UNDP and the other UN system, and then the 7 governors. And I'm told that one of the decisions
if I may butt in, my apologies, if I may butt in because of time. We cannot have this conversation without talking about the role of the governors. And the question is, are these governors? I know literally all of them, if not most of them, are new governors, barely 1 year in office. Most of the governors from the Northwest. Are they doing enough beyond short-term measures to be able to restore confidence in the people and literally transform the fortunes of the people economically? Because I know for a fact, by the record we have from budgets. We know that Zamfara, for instance, under Matawale, former governor of the state, in 2022, was not able to raise IGR up to 10 billion naira. I think about 6 billion. Kebbi, under Atiku Bagudu, also former governor Bagudu, could not raise IGR of more than 8 billion naira. That's how abysmal the numbers were in those particular states. And now these new men are in charge. What are you seeing that should give the people of these states and other states confidence to say, if economic situation is driving insecurity, what are they seeing now that can say, okay, you can maybe reduce it to a minimal level?
Like you rightly, I can't speak on behalf of the governors, but I can tell you what I'm seeing, and I can also tell you what was discussed and what is being envisaged. In particular, the governor of Zamfara State did provide data to show how he was able to increase IGR. I can't remember the exact figure now, but everybody at that conference was actually surprised given the level of insecurity. So you are in the media, you can check out if what he said is correct. I also know that the governor of Jigawa State did put out data to indicate that that is an area that his government is working critically on. What I saw with this crop of governors is, I would call it fresh, and I would also describe it as refreshing. The messaging they were sending, and the UN emphasized that. In particular, the UN representative in Nigeria cited the fact that hope is being restored in that region by this singular action for governors to dedicate 48 hours, traditional rulers, 48 hours, ministers, 48 hours, together discussing an issue that not only affects them, but affects the entire country. And then, like I explained to you when I mentioned the 5 technical sessions that were held, approaching the 3 components of the conference, which is insecurity or security, peace, and then development. I think they deserve the support of every Nigerian. Of course, there are, if you recall, the 2 of probably some of the richest persons in Nigeria from that region, Dangote and Boa. So I'm hoping that stakeholders like that too would come into the conversation so that all of these 5 components will be looked at critically, and then the drivers of insecurity, especially the poverty level and the several other economic challenges that affect the region, will be looked at critically and addressed so that the components that allow the structural deficiencies for insecurity to continue to thrive will be addressed at that very granular level.
So in coasting home, let's talk about the issue of banditry and all the shades of insecurity that we've seen in that region. How much has ethnicity and religion played a role? Because the Zamfara State governor had mentioned the fact that, look, he had even had people negotiating with these bandits, and without his knowledge, it looks like there has to be some level of proactive measure to put people in charge to make sure that the right things are done in case they are being treated with case glove. What are you seeing from an expert's point of view in addressing the issue of banditry to the core? The president talked about it, that you cannot take away foreign money when it comes to the issue of when it has to do with these mineral resources and banditry and all of that.
So in simple terms, Jeffrey, there has been divisions at the federal and at the state level. And we know that those divisions have been publicly spoken about by at least 2 governors. But this is not the time to speak about divisions. And this wasn't emphasized at the conference. It wasn't a place of lamentation. It was a place to talk about solutions. It's a place to talk about the way forward. And that's what I would do. In spite of those divisions, I think this is an opportunity. The renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and for me that is the Bible or the Quran for which I would measure the performance of the administration. In that document, it spoke about creating frameworks for addressing the security challenges in the 6 geopolitical regions. And I see an opportunity here, an opportunity that has been gifted to the administration. So I'm hoping the administration would take advantage of that opportunity and start by using the Northwest as the model for the evolvement of that framework. the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Minister of Defense that were represented at that conference should take advantage of this golden opportunity that has been presented to them by both the international community and the governors of the Northwest to now ensure that there is an involvement of a framework for addressing not just the banditry challenge. I can tell you that the focus of that conference on banditry identified the sources of the banditry, the bandit commanders, and not only that, Jeffrey, you must bring me back to this studio to complete this conversation.
I promise. I promise. I will look for some other time because we're totally out of time.
You kept me waiting 2 days ago for 1 hour. So you must compensate me.
My apologies. I promise I'll do my best to bring you back and ensure you ventilate your thought as much as possible. But I must apologize. Thank you for coming on the program. Mr. Kabiru Adamu, Security Consultant and CEO of Beacon Consulting and Intelligence Limited, thank you for your perspective. We wish the Northwest the very best.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Good night.